My name is Lorraine Harper. I'm 67 years old, and I've seen enough in this lifetime to know what love feels like and what silence hides. I was a nurse for 38 years. I raised 2 children, mostly on my own. I buried my husband after cancer chewed him to bone. I didn't cry at the funeral. I didn't cry when they folded the flag and handed it to me. I saved my tears for the months that followed, when I woke up in an empty bed and made coffee for one. It wasn't the loneliness that killed me. It was watching my children become strangers. That's a different kind of grief. You don't get a headstone for that one. My daughter, Monica, used to call every Sunday. We'd talk about her job at the bank, her 2 boys, her husband Greg, a man I never liked but tolerated. Over time, those calls became shorter. Then they became texts. Then nothing. Ethan, my son, was more distant. He showed up twice a year, once for Christmas, once for taxes. I was good for baking and deductions, I guess. He'd ask how I was doing, glance at his watch every few minutes, and always leave early to beat traffic. But I didn't say anything. That's what mothers do. We love even when it hurts. Then one day, Monica showed up out of nowhere, unannounced. No warning, just a knock at the door and a big smile like she hadn't ignored me for months. "Hi, Mom. Just thought I'd stop by and bring you some of those lemon scones you love," she said, holding a box that smelled faintly of citrus and guilt. I was surprised, but I let her in. I remember thinking it was nice to see her face again. She even made tea, chamomile, my favorite. We sat at the table like we used to. I sipped the tea. We talked about nonsense, the weather, the garden, her kids' soccer schedules. She was oddly cheerful, kept asking if I was feeling tired, worn out, if I needed help paying for things, if I had a will in place. Something about her voice felt off. I couldn't place it. Too sweet, too rehearsed, like she was trying out lines from a script. That night, my stomach started twisting, burning. My vision blurred. I collapsed in the hallway and hit my shoulder against the wall. I remember crawling to the phone, dialing 911, slurring words through my teeth. They pumped my stomach, said I was lucky I got there in time. "Could have been something in the tea," one nurse muttered. It was subtle, nothing lethal on its own, but dangerous when combined with my heart medication. A pharmacist would know that. So would someone married to a banker who used to date a pharmacy tech. I remember lying there in the hospital bed, tubes in my arm, silence around me, and I smiled. Because I knew one thing. Someone had taken out a life insurance policy on me, and they hadn't told me. I found out by accident. A clerk at the bank left the wrong document in my folder when I went in last month to update my will, a policy I never approved. A signature that wasn't mine. They thought I didn't notice. They thought I'd just die. But I survived. And they were about to learn what a mother does, not when she's hurt, but when she's ready. Then came the second visit, and that's when everything began to unravel. Monica came back 4 days later, this time with Ethan. No warning. Again. Just the doorbell at 9:12 a.m., like I was a patient they'd scheduled in the middle of their lives. "Mom," Ethan said, with that phony voice he reserves for courtrooms and condolences. "We've been worried." Worried. That word. The way they said it was almost laughable. Worried like I was a burden, not a mother. Like the woman who packed their lunches and held their heads during fevers had somehow become an inconvenience to manage. I invited them in, because I wanted to watch them lie up close. Monica started pacing the kitchen, offering to tidy things up. Ethan stood near the window, flipping through papers like he was about to read me my rights. I could smell the performance coming before it even started. "We were thinking," Monica began, "maybe it's time to set some things in place. Just in case. You've been through a lot, Mom. That fall, it scared us. The fall. Caused by their tea." "Yeah," Ethan chimed in. "Just some light paperwork. Power of attorney stuff. Health proxies. You know." so we can step in if something happens. He said it like he was doing me a favor, like signing over my life was just part of growing old gracefully. I said nothing, just nodded and let them talk, watched their hands, tracked their eyes. I didn't blink once. They'd brought documents with them, clean, crisp, pre-printed forms in folders marked with my name. No lawyers, no notaries, just pre-filled blank spaces waiting for my signature. I asked for tea, made it myself. And while the kettle boiled, I glanced at the paperwork. Page 4 of the packet was a revised life insurance beneficiary update. Signed yesterday. Dated, stamped, and notarized by a man I've never met. When I returned with the tea, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I had already decided. They would never inherit a single cent of my pain. I played along, told them I'd think about it, that I'd call a lawyer to go over everything, just to be sure. They nodded, masks still on, not realizing their show was over. They left, clearly disappointed that I didn't cave right then and there. Monica gave me a hug. I felt her hand linger near my coat rack, the one where I keep my keys. After they drove off, I checked the security camera I'd installed 6 years ago but never mentioned. Caught her red-handed, sliding my spare house key into her purse. Smiling. I should have cried, should have screamed. But at that point, I wasn't even angry. I was focused. I called a lawyer that same afternoon, my old friend Sandra, who'd helped me set up my will back when Henry died. She answered on the second ring. I told her everything, not in tears, but like a woman building a case. By 6 p.m., I had cancelled the fake insurance policy. I had my accounts frozen and red-tagged for unauthorized access attempts. Sandra started preparing a cease and desist. We made a new will, a secret one. I changed every beneficiary. I put my name on every title deed that mattered. I wasn't scared anymore. I was insulted. And insult is the one thing I don't forgive. The next morning, I visited Monica's office, didn't call ahead, walked straight into her cubicle holding a manila folder with my name on it. Her face froze. "Mom, what are you—" I dropped the folder on her desk and leaned in close. "You might want to ask Greg what poison leaves no trace in chamomile." I walked away before she could say a word. That's when I knew. They weren't just trying to control me. They were trying to erase me. And I was just getting started. After I left Monica's office that day, I didn't go home. I went to the one place they'd never expect me to go. The bank where I used to work. Old habits don't die, they wait. When I was a nurse, I dealt with pain. When I was a mother, I gave everything I had. But before that, in my 20s, I worked front office in a small bank branch, long before people trusted apps and screens with their savings. I knew exactly what paperwork looked like when it was faked. I knew how people used polite language to hide sinister intent. And I knew how to read financial statements like scripture. So I asked for my full transaction history from the past 18 months. All accounts, every name linked, every signature captured digitally. It took less than 10 minutes to find the first crack. On June 14th of last year, months before the tea incident, Monica had scheduled an insurance consultation in my name. Not just scheduled it, attended it, with a woman named Carla Stevenson. I didn't know Carla, but I had her employee ID, her office address, and a copy of a typed letter requesting emergency beneficiary designation due to mental decline. Signed, Lorraine Harper. Only I never typed that letter, and I sure as hell didn't sign it. I held the paper in my hands and realized this had started long before I fell sick, before Monica's fake tea party, before Ethan's little folder routine. This wasn't a mistake. It was a strategy. I printed every document and took it home. That night, I pulled out my old metal lockbox, the one with Henry's medals, our wedding certificate, baby photos, and receipts no one else thought I'd keep. Inside, I found something I hadn't looked at in decades. My husband's old journals, notes he took while battling cancer. In one entry, barely legible through his shaky handwriting, he wrote, "If anything happens to me, make sure Monica doesn't get close to Mom's estate. She's slippery." That sentence hit me harder than the hospital fall. Monica had always been Daddy's girl, but he saw through her, even when I didn't. And now that I thought back, I remembered small things, moments I ignored, the way she always insisted on handling the bills when Dad got sick, how she offered to digitize my documents the year after his death, the time she jokingly asked what kind of casket I wanted, just in case something happened. I'd mistaken manipulation for concern. I spent the next day calling every utility, every service account, every investment name I could remember. By the third call, I confirmed it. My name had been switched to co-signer status on a mutual fund I started 15 years ago, now listed under Ethan's primary control. That was the moment the grief left my body. They weren't just circling like vultures. They were carving pieces of me out while I was still breathing. But what they didn't know is that I had something they didn't. I had time. I had silence, and I had nothing left to lose. That night, I sat in my living room, lights off, candles lit. I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my journal, not the one they knew about, the real one, the one I started the day after Henry died, the one I kept hidden under a loose floorboard beneath the hallway rug. I flipped through the entries, and with every word, I remembered who I used to be. Not just a mother, not just a widow, not just a woman they thought was past her prime, but a survivor. I began writing the new version of my story, this time, with no edits and no mercy. Because if they wanted to erase me, they were about to learn. I knew how to disappear too. 2 weeks after my visit to Monica's office, everything changed. No warning, no call, just silence, followed by a slow unraveling of everything I thought I had left. It began with a trip to the pharmacy. I handed my card to the clerk, smiling politely as always. She scanned it, frowned, and tapped her keyboard a little longer than usual. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harper," she said, her voice tightening. "Your insurance was cancelled last week." I froze. "No, there's a mistake. I didn't cancel anything." She showed me the screen. Termination request submitted online. Logged under an IP address I didn't recognize. The notes read, "Patient moved to assisted care." I walked out with nothing, not even my blood pressure medication. When I got home, I tried to log into my utility accounts. Access denied. Tried my bank again, locked for suspicious activity. Even my phone plan had been transferred to a family plan under Ethan's name. They'd seized every cord that kept me connected. They hadn't just betrayed me. They were erasing me in real time. That night, I opened the refrigerator and realized how empty the shelves were. Not just the food, the air. The air in my home felt stolen. Then the doorbell rang. A woman in blue scrubs stood outside, holding a clipboard and a badge that read, "Serenity Pines, Transitional Living." "Hi, Mrs. Harper. I'm here to assist with your move." My move? She told me Monica had arranged for me to be transferred into a private care facility. "Early dementia," she said. "Family says you've been having memory lapses." I stared at her. Not a word escaped my lips. Then I asked one question. "Do you see a suitcase on this porch?" She blinked. "No, Mum." "Do you see a signed form saying I agreed to leave?" "No, Mum." "Then I suggest you get off my property before I call the police." She left without a sound. That night, I sat in the dark again. No phone, no internet, no insurance, no money I could access. My children, the ones I carried inside me, had tried to move me like luggage, sell my house, drug me, steal my life while I was still breathing in it. And still, I didn't cry. Instead, I opened the drawer beside my chair and pulled out a small object, my husband's old cassette recorder. the one he used to leave me messages when his voice got too weak. I replaced the tape and pressed record. Day 1, they tried to relocate me like a patient, but I'm not sick. I'm not confused. I am wide awake, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. I spoke like I was whispering to the grave, to Henry, to myself. I would not go gently. I would not hand over the last pieces of my dignity to people who smiled while poisoning me. The next morning, I walked to the public library, checked my account from a secure computer, logged into my backup email, the one tied to nothing but my old high school alumni group. And there it was. Confirmation of forged documents, paper trails, emails, even a recent password reset on my primary checking account from Ethan's IP. I sent every file to Sandra, my lawyer, and added one note: let's burn the foundation down. But I didn't stop there. I reached out to 2 old friends from the hospital, one retired, the other now working for Adult Protective Services. I told them everything. I wasn't calling for help. I was building witnesses. By sundown, I had new locks installed, a motion detector set up, and a notarized affidavit of mental clarity signed by 3 medical professionals. And I sent my daughter one photo, a picture of me smiling on my front porch, holding the tea set she tried to kill me with, because I was done hiding. And the next time they knocked, I would be the one asking questions. There's something my daughter never understood about me, maybe because she never really cared to ask. I don't raise my voice when I'm angry. I don't slam doors, throw plates, or curse the skies. When I'm hurt, truly hurt, I go quiet. And that silence, that's not weakness. That's preparation. I knew I couldn't confront them the way they expected. They were counting on hysteria, breakdown, the sobbing mother begging for love, the confused old woman they could pat on the head and walk over. But I'd played that game once, and I nearly died for it. Not again. So I started building, quietly, precisely, like a woman setting up a chessboard while her opponent is still bragging about how they'll win. Step 1. Legal landmines. Sandra and I met 3 times that week. We rewrote my entire estate plan from scratch. All former wills, revoked. Power of attorney, terminated. New executors, assigned, none of them family, all bulletproof. One, a former prosecutor. The other, a probate specialist. Sandra filed a formal complaint with the insurance board about the forged policy. She attached documents, timelines, and the scanned signature. Compared with my actual one, the difference was laughable. Their fraud was now not just immoral, it was criminal. Step 2. Reverse the surveillance. For years I let them think they were watching me. They'd check in occasionally, ask vague questions like, "So you still remember how to cook? You haven't, gotten lost lately?" Subtle digs, little needles. They were gauging my sharpness, checking how much time they had left before my brain expired. So I gave them nothing. Smiled, nodded, let them believe they were still ahead. Meanwhile, I planted voice recorders in the vents, set up motion alerts linked to my backup email. One in the mailbox, one above the front door. And most importantly, one inside the family photo frame on my mantel, the one they always stood near when they visited. I wanted proof, not just for the court, but for me, for closure, to hear the tone of their voices when they thought I wasn't listening. Step 3. Financial whiplash. I had spent decades building quiet wealth. My late husband left me the house, but I built the savings. Nursing was steady work, and I never splurged, never owed, never asked. Monica and Ethan assumed my accounts were average, just enough to cover retirement things. They didn't know about the stock account I started in 1999, or the land I bought in Oklahoma under a trust name, or the antique collection in the basement I had appraised quietly in 2017, now worth more than both their mortgages combined. I began liquidating what they didn't know I had, moved the funds into protected accounts, created a donation trust in my name, Harper Women's Emergency Relief Fund. The irony? The children who tried to kill me for money were now legally excluded from touching a single cent of it, because it now belonged to a public fund created to help abused women escape their families. And it was named after me. Step 4. Set the stage. Once the trap was built, all I had to do was invite them in. So I called Monica, just once. I kept my voice soft, told her I missed the boys, that I wasn't feeling well, that maybe she'd been right after all. Maybe it was time to talk about signing those papers. She bit the bait like a starving wolf. She said she'd come by that weekend, with Ethan, just in case we needed a witness. How thoughtful. I ended the call with one last sentence, and I made sure it burned in her memory. Bring the tea again, sweetheart. I haven't had it since the last time you were here. She hesitated, but she said, Sure, Mum, I'll bring it. Because what she didn't know, this time I'd be recording, and this time I'd already written the ending. They arrived on Saturday, mid-morning, dressed in pastel like they were showing up for brunch, not an ambush. Monica had that same sugary voice, like she was auditioning for sainthood. Ethan stood behind her, hands in his pockets, pretending to be the supportive son. They brought lemon scones again, and the tea. Of course, the tea. I greeted them like a woman defeated, blank expression, soft voice. The kind of woman who wouldn't question anything anymore. They bought it. Monica handed me a cup. Chamomile, again. She poured it herself, same as before. This time, though, I watched. Closely. She brought her own tea bags, unwrapped it carefully, but not in full view, didn't stir, just handed it over like an offering. I didn't drink it. I placed it gently on the side table, near the old family photo, the one now holding a tiny camera inside the frame. Microphone running. I'm so glad you both came, I said. There's just a few things I wanted to clear up before we go over any paperwork. Monica smiled too widely. Of course, Mum. We're just here to help. I looked at Ethan. You still work with that financial firm, right? He nodded. Yeah, we're actually doing really well right now. Big client portfolios. That's good, I said, interrupting. I just wonder what your clients would think if they knew you helped forge legal documents to claim your own mother's assets while she was hospitalized. He blinked. What? Because I've got copies now. Emails, IP logs, screenshots. I can trace everything, from the fake insurance policy you opened under my name to the login activity that accessed my accounts while I was sedated. Monica went pale. Mum, what are you talking about? You said I was confused, slipping, that I needed help. I leaned in, not angry, just cold. Tell me, Monica, was that before or after you asked a notary to verify a forged signature from a woman lying in a hospital bed? She laughed, nervously. You're overthinking this. This is all a big No, you made a mistake. The day you assumed I was too tired to read my own documents, too old to notice my own tea tasted bitter. Her eyes twitched. And then, slowly, I reached beneath the side table and pulled out a small black recorder. Pressed play. Monica recorded. She's half gone already, Greg. Just put the file in front of her. She'll sign anything. Trust me. Ethan's face turned to stone. Monica recorded. No, don't use too much. She needs to feel sick, not die right away. It has to look natural. Silence. Thick, sticky silence. I didn't say a word, just let the sound of her voice hang in the air like smoke. Monica stood, stammering. That's edited. That's not even... Do you want to test it in court? I asked. Because Sandra does. Their silence told me everything. Ethan backed toward the hallway. We didn't mean... You meant to bury me alive, I said, and smile at my funeral. But I crawled out, and now you're both guests at your own downfall. They left in a rush. No hugs, no goodbyes. But before they made it to the door, I gave them one last thing, an envelope. Inside, a copy of the formal complaint sent to the insurance board, and a copy of the new will. No need to read it now, I said. Just know this. You're both out. Completely, no appeals, no loopholes, no visits. They stared at me like they didn't recognize me. And in that moment, I felt something peaceful, because I didn't recognize them either. That was just the first blow. The real storm, that was still on its way, and it would hit harder than they ever expected. It took less than 48 hours for the fallout to begin. Sandra called me the next morning, her voice sharp but satisfied. "We've got them," she said. "All of it. Insurance fraud, forgery, intent to harm, the whole orchestra." The audio recording alone would have been enough to cause damage, but coupled with the emails, bank logs, and document discrepancies, it was nuclear. And the best part, I didn't have to lift a single finger. Sandra filed a formal criminal report with the district attorney's office. Within a week, both Monica and Ethan were served. And just like that, the whispers began. You see, Monica loved appearances. Her whole life was built on Pinterest boards and social media filters, PTA awards, church bake sales, that fake little smile she wore like armor. So when news broke that she was under investigation for elder abuse and financial manipulation, it didn't just shake her world, it shattered her illusion. Ethan was no different. Corporate clients started pulling out quietly. Rumors spread fast in the finance world, especially when fraud is involved. And I didn't gloat. I didn't dance. I just sat in my garden, trimmed my roses, and watched karma unfold in real time. 3 weeks later, I held a small dinner, not for family, for the people who stood beside me. Sandra, Mrs. Ellis from down the street, who checked on me when I vanished. My old nurse friend from the hospice who helped with my legal evaluations. We toasted quietly. No champagne, just warm soup and warm hands around the table. And when Sandra handed me the final version of my new will, I signed it with a steady hand. It left everything, every asset, every bond, every antique, every acre of land, to women who had been through what I had, to shelters, clinics, and legal aid funds that helped the forgotten mothers, and to a scholarship in Henry's name for children who lost parents to betrayal. Nothing for Monica, nothing for Ethan, not even a memory. They tried to end me for my money. Instead, I used my money to end them, not physically, not violently, but publicly, legally, and permanently. They weren't arrested, not yet. But they were named in a lawsuit, subpoenaed, monitored. Monica had to step down from her job to focus on family matters. Ethan's firm quietly reassigned his clients and started distancing him from everything. They lost what they loved most, their image, and they knew, deep down, it didn't have to be this way. The last message I ever sent them was short. I loved you until it killed me. Then I lived anyway. It's strange how silence feels after a storm. For weeks, I kept expecting someone to knock. The police, the press, a crying grandchild. No one came. The quiet wasn't empty. It was clean. Sometimes I still think of Monica as a little girl, the way she used to braid her doll's hair beside me in the kitchen. Or Ethan, asking me why the moon followed our car home at night. It's hard to believe those children became the people who poured poison into my tea. But what's harder is knowing they thought I wouldn't notice, that I'd just slip away quietly, unaware, powerless, forgettable. They underestimated the wrong woman, because I may be 67, but I remember everything. And now the world remembers me too. My story, my real story, went public. Sandra published an op-ed under my name. It went viral. Hundreds of women reached out, daughters, sisters, grandmothers, and one line kept coming back. You gave me the courage to speak. That's when I knew I had taken my pain and turned it into purpose. I still sit on that same porch, same teacup, different blend. Now I drink lavender mint, grown from my own garden, and when the sun goes down, I don't think about what was lost.
What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, Smash that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping family drama, shocking betrayals, and the revenge stories you won't believe.